Hello, and welcome to an overview of what's new in OnBase Foundation 251. I'm product evangelist Colleen Albert. So let's begin. Officially released on February 18th, 2025, OnBase Foundation 251 includes 34 initiatives. And if you're not familiar with that term, essentially an initiative is a collection of epics and enhancements and fixes and updates that drive towards a common goal to deliver business value. We've got almost 200 epics and over 3,000 fixes and updates in this particular release of OnBase. It's important to note that OnBase Foundation 251 is an annual release version, which means that it is considered a major release supported with 2 years of active maintenance in the form of monthly service releases. So why would you want to upgrade to 251? 3 reasons: user experience, administrative tools, and enhanced purpose-built integrations. And before we dive into the details, here's a quick overview of everything we'll showcase today. There's a lot, so if a particular area doesn't interest or apply to you, feel free to skip ahead. For our users, we've got updates to the experiences in WorkView, App Builder, and the web client. For administrators, we've got new tools in Unity Forms, our OnBase admin portal, and OnBase Studio. And for those that are taking advantage of some of our third-party purpose-built integrations, you see the list here. We've got lots of new features. And no what's new in OnBase overview presentation would be complete without Colleen's Corner. So I've included a bonus section that previews the Content Intelligence Connector for OnBase Knowledge Discovery and one of my favorite Highland products, the Highland Content Portal, powered by Jadu Central. And when you see that little light bulb, as I just flashed, that is a direct indication that this new feature or enhancement came directly from customer feedback and ideas. All right, friends, let's dive right in. First, enhancements that improve the user experience within OnBase. And here are the top 3 areas of improvement: WorkView, App Builder, and Web Client. Let's start at the top with WorkView, our low-code case management application builder. And we've got 2 major areas of enhancement. The first is responsive panels, and the second is display template enhancements. So first, we've enhanced WorkView panels to be responsive to form factors. Another way to say that is responsive to the device size. This allows OnBase apps, or really any WorkView interface that includes WorkView objects, to scale better to smaller screens. Shown here is WorkView with App Builder, but this change is available on mobile, web, essentially any view of WorkView. We show it here in OnBase apps because that's currently our most responsive and most mobile-ready interface. Second, new with WorkView, we also added the ability to manage display templates from one central location, so that's the first piece, and use display templates to customize views. So if you're not well versed in WorkView, you might be wondering, what is a WorkView display template? Well, essentially, it refers to a pre-designed layout within WorkView that allows admins to customize how the information is presented on the screen or in the interface. For example, deciding what data fields are visible, their arrangement, and the overall appearance, essentially creating a personalized view of the work, again, based on that display template. So this means that our admins are able to fully customize the way that our WorkView objects will look. Because the big change here, we've always had a concept of display templates, but the big change here is that now we can embed these display templates on a view. They are resolved at runtime when the object is displayed, allowing complete customization of the view using scripting. So things like HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and more. Now, maybe you want to present just part of a view or add a calendar. Anything is possible. And I'll show you a few examples in just a minute. But if we go back to the centralized display template, admins now have the ability to add, to modify, or delete display templates from that central location in OnBase Studio. So here we see this kind of new template management dialog that enables administrators to view all display templates in the system, as well as work with them all from one place. So much easier to manage all of those. And now when we've done all that customization on that display template and applied it to our WorkView object, as we see here in OnBase apps, we see a fully customized view. I mean, you have to admit, this view of a WorkView object looks nothing like the one I showed earlier with all the static text fields. And I, for one, are super excited about the possibilities of how OnBase can look moving forward. This particular example is using a display template with our new custom display method client-side API to modernize the UI and make it look more like either the Highland UI or the OnBase apps experience or your particular brand. Now we turn to the OnBase App Builder, which was first released in OnBaseFoundation 251. And I think of the OnBase apps as really just an enhancement or an evolution of the web client and a key component of our journey to web and mobile interfaces. This is the biggest release for OnBase App Builder since its initial release in 23.1. And I'm going to go over this short list, but really impactful list of enhancements in terms of what's new in 25.1. This really is the biggest release for App Builder to date, and it's all based on customer and partner feedback. The first is single source layout. And this is a new screen layout which removes the left-hand navigation and provides additional screen real estate for sources like reporting dashboards. But it can really be configured for any source type. But in our example, here is a reporting dashboard taking up the entire screen real estate. If you notice on the left-hand side, that app navigation is no longer present. Similarly, we have the ability to display a single WorkView object, essentially auto-displaying the first WorkView object in a list. And as the name implies, it does exactly that. But I want to show you both the before and the after. So here you see a WorkView filter, and we added this in 24.1 with a count and a list of items. Users can look at the list, we see that in the center, and they can process the items in any order they'd like. Now, here's the after, just a different way of configuring. We now have this additional display option to present just one WorkView object at a time. And this is a great feature for situations where maybe you don't want users cherry picking from a list, but they only get to work on the next item. So they only see that one object. We also added full text search capabilities to the OnBase App Builder in the form of full text search for custom queries. This expands search capabilities within the OnBase App Builder. So here we see the full text dialog, and we see some of the tooltips to let me know exactly how to enter my search criteria, and I get the result set. You notice the bonus full text search columns here on the left of score, file type, and summary, in addition to our standard custom query column headers. I click on one of the documents, open it up, and immediately I see that hit inside of my document. Next is our OnBase App Builder support for interface translations, which is essentially localization and internationalization. What this means, what interface translation means, is that the admin can localize custom static text strings when they are defining the app. So best illustrated by an example. Here we see an accounts payable app that's in English. Let's say I have a couple users that live in France and speak French, but need to use this same app. Well, this is true of all of OnBase, now available on the App Builder. That admin can go into our interface translations dialog and translate some of that static text like invoices, import invoice, into French. So when this app is rendered in a browser that is rendering in the French language, the OnBase App Builder will recognize that, and those static text fields will be appropriately translated. Essentially, when we talk about interface translation, internationalization, and localization, we're saying that the OnBase apps now officially supports all supported languages by OnBase. As a reminder, support for WorkView within App Builder was added with OnBaseFoundation 24.1. But what I've got to show you next, these 25.1 items, demonstrate how we further enhance that. Our UI refresh allows the source on the screen to reflect the current state of the data without having to manually refresh the page. So items like workflow and WorkView lists As items are decisioned and moved, we will automatically refresh behind the scenes the counts in any one of these queues. But it doesn't just apply to these kind of queues on the left. Individual items, as they are opened and executed, we update that header as well. So let's say I'm looking at an item that's in workflow, I execute a workflow task, we'll see right in the header that status change from waiting for approval to approved. Within our WorkView filter, we can now use WorkView filter constraints. So we will support user-entered search criteria. We have also added a new feature, which is to present related items as illustrated here by notes and reminders. So these are related items to the primary item. Very familiar concept in OnBase, but we kind of do it in the app builder way. Instead of calling this related items, you can name it whatever you want. At the same time, all of these related items, we can do something with them as well. So you can execute a task on any one of these related documents. We also have, as I mentioned before with WorkView, the ability to customize the look and the feel of these WorkView screens. So if this is my before, I invoke that display template, and here is my after. This is an example of the full customization that can now happen via WorkView display templates. This screen is completely customized, and it enables you as administrators to fully meet the needs of your users and any solution requirements in a very modern display. Display templates, as we mentioned earlier, are that existing feature of WorkView, but that are now exposed as part of the object viewer or the view designer. And we need this to enable this level of customization. Here we see invocation of some new client-side API capabilities that were added to support seamless interaction with these objects as well. And this is part of that same object as on the prior slide. It's just a continuation of some of these customization capabilities. This shows how you can render the results of an embedded filter in a more streamlined user experience. Here we see in this example a list and a calendar view. And we see all of these WorkView objects and details built into the app builder, all responsive to tablets. I mean, this is the new face of OnBase. And while we will proclaim responsive to tablets, based on how you configure the different elements of both your app and your WorkView objects, you're going to get a lot closer to responsiveness on a phone. Next up, and third in our family of end user enhancements, is the OnBase web client. Now, we've been on a journey over these past couple years to enrich the OnBase web client, making it the primary user interface for the majority of your OnBase users. And this release is no different. We've got three major areas of enhancement. The first is we've added an admin control to single window mode. We've updated and enhanced our text report viewer in the web client, and we've added some new line and freehand annotations that will be coming post-release. So let's take a look. First, the single window mode control was introduced in OnBaseFoundation251, and it essentially provides better navigation experience on desktops, of course, but also on tablets. When enabled, functionality that used to pop out in a new window, things like history or keywords, will now be displayed either as a full screen modal or in a side panel, depending on the layout of the particular item being displayed. This includes things like the document viewer, keywords, notes, document properties, and so on. In 24.1, we added the ability to resize some of those side panels with a slider bar and more. And in OnBase Foundation 25.1, we've added a new admin option to turn on or off this single window mode option by default for all users. And there's an option to lock it down completely. Users can't edit it, or to set the default, but allow them to change their own personal preferences. And we see here where administrators will set that control found in web.config in our WAM-con interface. And you'll see the option here for on-off by default, but also on-off users can set their preference. This setting is also available to our cloud customers through the self-service UI. So here we see in our cloud configuration, the ability to set that single window mode, again, not only the default, but also the ability for users to change their preferences as well. Now we turn to our text report viewer. The web client now offers the ability to display a green bar as part of any text reports. So if the document type has been previously configured to show the green bar and the user has this option enabled in their preferences, the web client will now display it, making sometimes these text-heavy reports a little bit easier to read. So as we see here in the aging report, OnBase was already configured to show the green bar, and we're able to see it here. And as a result, when our users open it for the first time in 25.1, the green bar will be displayed. We, of course, have that user preference for the user to turn on and off the green bar. They can select that show text with green bar in their user options, and of course, save and close here to make the change on that option. Second, when it comes to text report viewing, users can now activate a cross-reference by clicking on specific characters in the text report, enabling the retrieval of one-to-many documents from a single report. So here, if I double-click on my invoice number 1273, I'm presented with that invoice image in my web client viewer. And I can easily view that this particular invoice is overdue. And of course, you can keep clicking on all the numbers in the report. As long as they're a related invoice, the web client will retrieve it. Lastly, users will have the ability to use two new annotation types, a line, often used as a strike through, and a freehand annotation. And you may be wondering, like, didn't we have these already? You know, I think I thought we did, but the freehand drawing is a whole new concept for OnBase. So the outcome is you click on the freehand, you draw as much as you'd like. As soon as you lift your pen off, then you've got your freehand annotation. The line annotation, of course, we had the arrow, can be used as a strike through or an underline. It's a straight line on a document. These will be coming post-release of 25.1 and will be supported to some degree across a variety of OnBase clients. The most robust, and why I have it included here, is the OnBase web client, which will support image, text, and PDF. And the web client is the only one that will support the PDFs, and that is because of our new native Highland PDF viewer that we introduced in the last release. So there are a couple nuances based on client in terms of what is supported, how it is supported, the file formats, which you'll see here. But just to get a look at it, this is a freehand and a line in both web and mobile. Here we are in the web client. This is a PDF. I've added a line and a freehand kind of along with a note, and you can see them both here. So big stuff in the web client, more reasons to move and get your users excited about moving to the web. Next up, I'd like to share what's new in terms of administrative tools. Here are the top tools that have been improved with OnBase Foundation 24.1. Top of our list is Unity Forms. We've got one enhancement for Unity Forms, but it's a good one, and it's the introduction of responsive Unity Forms. Now we're introducing responsive Unity Forms in a phased approach. In this first phase, only new forms can be configured or designed to be responsive. And in this initial rollout, there'll be a select set of controls that are supported for your responsive forms, as well as opportunities to test drive before you go live. So let's take a look. Within the Unity Forms Designer, there'll be a new option for responsive forms. You'll notice it right here at the bottom, optimized for use on multiple device sizes. So things like mobile phone, tablet, and desktop. Once that option is selected, you'll notice a couple of changes. At the top of the form, there'll be an alert indicating that this form is designed as responsive. On the left-hand side, in our toolbox, you'll notice that unsupported controls are grayed out, and controls like text box, multi-line, select list, radio button, paragraph, I could go on and on, are all supported for OnBase Foundation 25.1. Now, once you've designed and configured your form just the way you like it, there'll be an opportunity to test drive. So you'll be able to see how the form will render on small, medium, or large device sizes. Once you've got everything just the way you like it, you're good to publish. Now, one item of note, in order to make the forms responsive and still include a date picker option, we had to make some changes to the way the date picker will display on forms, and it will now render in accordance with the operating system that form is being rendered on. So instead of our standard date picker for Unity Forms, it will now vary slightly depending on whether you're looking at this form in various browsers or on different device sizes. Once you've got everything the way you like it, you take a look at the new form, and here's just an example of the same form configured to be displayed on the left as a phone and on the right as a tablet. And you'll notice the word wrapping of a really long label. Simple example, but what a great presentation. And just to kind of remind you about standard Unity forms and how this will all work, just a couple things that have changed on the standard size when a form is not optimized for responsiveness. First, you'll see that same alert at the top indicating that this form is not fit for smaller device sizes. So if you open up and edit an existing form or you don't select that checkbox, you'll see this. You'll also notice that the ability to test drive based on the device size has been grayed out. And then lastly, of course, your forms will use our standard Unity Forms date picker shown here. All right, next up in our family of administrative tools is what's new with the OnBase admin portal. Now, if you're new to OAP, it is a web-based interface that allows you as our system admins to manage and configure settings within OnBase. So a web-based configuration tool. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of OnBase configuration or Studio just yet, but it does provide the primary tools for document type, keyword, user, and account management all in this web-based tool. And you can get to it from Studio or directly via a URL. In 25.1, we have added environment value management, overwrite protections, and the copy action. And I'll talk briefly about each one. By adding environment value management from Studio to OAP, admins will now be able to manage their environment values across their environments. So setting those different variables based on, UAT, dev, and prod environments. They'll specifically be able to set the value sets as well as the import value sets directly in OAP, making it easier and quicker to configure and to manage these variables between environments. We also have introduced overwrite protections, which will prevent multiple users from changing the information of the same object at the same time via the OAP. So when I go to save the changes that I just made, I'll get a message to discard or to overwrite. I'll have a notice that says someone has been editing this item at the same time. And the user then will be able to decide how to proceed. And then lastly, we have introduced the copy action. So administrators can now save a copy of a configuration object through the OnBase admin portal using the save as option showed here, which will drastically reduce the amount of time it takes to create or set up new configurations. So this is huge, and it covers all objects that currently exist in the OnBase admin portal. So you set up a user group, a keyword type, a document type, and you want to create another one that's very similar to the one that you just created. You save as, give it a new name, and then make those additional modifications. Now, lastly, in our family of administration tools is updates to OnBase Studio's theme, which has been updated to match that of the Unity client, bringing a fresh look to Studio. So first, the before. So we notice kind of the pale light blue color scheme. And here is the after. This theme refresh improves readability of text labels, as well as a crisper UI elements throughout, including data grids, workflow wizards, toolboxes, studio options, ribbon tooltips, and more. And hopefully, this updated UI experience is a hit with all of you administrators and developers alike. Next, I'd like to talk about our enhanced integrations, and we've got a whole host of updates with OnBaseFoundation251. Let's start at the top with AP automation, taking a look at some enhancements to our packaged AP automation solutions. For those who may be unfamiliar, these solutions integrate with your chosen ERP to capture and validate invoices, manage exceptions, and maintain a tight integration for data exchange and document retrieval. We currently have integrations with many of the large ERPs you know, like Workday and SAP, as well as general any ERP connectors that connect with most others. So what are we enhancing? There are 3 primary enhancements with 25.1, a bit of which was released as early as 24.1. But these include, first, new role-tailored UI for AP, complements of the OnBase App Builder, an automated learning engine plugin for Brainware to improve OCR with additional machine learning, and third, a new unified validation and coding interface, bringing these 2 touch points together into one so you can perform all data validation, coding, and processing steps within a single experience. So allow me to provide just a little more detail on each one. First, the OnBase App Builder, which we heard about earlier, brings a new primary UI to AP automation with a simplified layout that's designed specifically for AP users. OnBase AP solutions are presented as modern web apps providing intuitive, persona-based experiences that include workflow, reporting, queries, forms, and the ability to upload content. Users will only see the information and options they care about through streamlined views of the content and functionality that is relevant to their role. So let's take a look. Here we see the familiar OnBase App Builder dashboard, but with an AP spin. And clicking into our processing view, we see our invoice processing queues. These AP UIs will be rolled out in phases with Workday, Deltek, and Oracle JDE and any ERP available now. SAP and Infor Lawson S3 are in progress and will be ready later this year. Next in AP, we've introduced an automated learning engine plugin for Brainware that improves OCR with additional machine learning. Data corrections made in OnBase are automatically fed back into Brainware for continuous learning and improved extraction. And because it gets smarter the more documents it sees, invoices that may have been stopped for data extraction issues in the past will now process straight through. This one is more behind the scenes, but the impact is huge in terms of speeding up invoice processing while reducing the need for human interaction. And last for AP, a unified verifier that allows all data validation, coding, and processing to happen within a single OnBase screen, no longer requiring them to be addressed in Brainware. Essentially turning 2 touch points into one, but with continued communication with Brainware, ensuring continual learning on the Brainware front. Along with that, the existing WorkView coding form is getting a facelift, removing unnecessary functions from the screen, showing highlighted errored fields, and providing a more modern and simple experience. Let's take a peek. Check out this modern and unified interface. Both the unified verifier and the coding forms are supported starting with OnBaseFoundation 24.1 and are available for all ERP integrations. Next up, we have a couple key updates for our integration for SAP Archive Link. Our first enhancement, which was a customer request, extends Hyland's SAP Archive Link connector to support the SAP Cloud Platform Integration Service, or CPI. CPI is an integration platform as a service offering from SAP that enables organizations to connect different systems, applications, and data sources both within and outside of their enterprise landscape. This expands opportunities to leverage the SAP Archive Link integration across different customer deployment scenarios. Additionally, we're providing a new admin experience with an updated user interface. New administrative screens modernize the overall user experience, leveraging the Hyland UI to unify the look and feel with the rest of the Hyland suite. And here we can see a couple ways in which we've modernized that admin experience. You'll see the old on the left and the new on the right, the fresh face of these unified verifiers. Both enhancements require OnBaseFoundation 25.1 and the OnBase integration for SAP Archive Link license. And the admin updates also require the Hyland Identity Service. Next, I'd like to talk about what's new with the Hyland Microsoft 365 Office Outlook add-in 2.0 that was released in November of 2024. Now, this add-in was new right around OnBaseFoundation 23.1, and I say around only because this was not released with OnBase, but alongside OnBase. This add-in follows its own release cadence. Now, in the most simplest sense, the Highland Microsoft 365 Office Outlook add-in allows users to import emails and attachments into OnBase directly from Outlook on the web and the new Outlook desktop. So unlike our existing integrations for Outlook and Office that do require the Office product to be installed locally, these allow us to integrate with the online versions. What we've added new in this 2.0 release is automated indexing capabilities by way of allowing you to map data from the email message to keyword fields on your document type in OnBase. So if all the keyword fields are mapped and no user input is required, the message is automatically imported. However, there can be some mappings and also some requirements for users to add keyword values. So what does this look like? Well, we see our message in the middle of the screen that we want to import. On the left-hand side, we've also selected a folder that we want to use that will contain our mappings behind the scenes. On the right, when we click Import Message, we notice that some fields have been mapped, such as PO and vendor name, but we also need to quickly enter the invoice amount. Once I click Import, the message has been imported into OnBase with all of this keyword indexing automatically assigned. Now, how does this get set up? In our administration page, we have added a new tab for folder mappings. And you see the folders, the Outlook folders on the left-hand side, specifically the one we just imported to for 9-second foods. So we see the Outlook folder path, and we see all of the rules that now come into play. What is the document type that I want to assign this new message to? What are the keyword fields that I want to map some of my message properties and data to? We can even get deeper then, once we've configured the rules, to the really specific mappings. And you'll see that we have a couple different options. I can require data entry. Users will be prompted. I can also map a field. So you see in my PO number, I'm mapping to the subject of the message. And I can also use static text. So I want the vendor name when I'm on my 9-second foods folder to always be populated with 9-second foods, and I can apply this indexing. It is a selection of the folder, so that folder is selected and the message, and I click import to make this whole thing work. Unfortunately, in this new Outlook, we are unable to hear the action of dragging and dropping a message to a folder, so we cannot trigger the import into OnBase based on that mapping any longer. So what does this require? The good news is this new Outlook add-in is included if you have already previously purchased our integration for Microsoft Outlook. You've already got this add-in at your fingertips, and it is compatible with versions of OnBase EP5 or higher. So even though we introduced it in 2003, it does have some backwards compatibility. You'll also need these free included services: the Highland MCA Web API, the OnBase API server, and the Highland Identity Service. Currently, this Outlook add-in is for on-prem environments only, but the onboarding process for the Highland Cloud has begun. Now, since I'm on the topic of Office and Outlook, I did want to make an announcement. This is not necessarily the introduction of a new feature, but just so that you are aware that we are aware that Microsoft Office 2024 was made available on October 1st. We, as Highland, are currently evaluating future support of Office 2024 regarding the 365 Outlook Office add-in that I just showed, as well as our legacy Outlook and Office desktop-based integrations. So I'm talking about integration for Outlook and the Office business applications. So more is to come on that as we play around with this new version of Outlook, and hopefully soon are able to announce full support. Next, we have the release of integration for Salesforce 3.1. And I'm really excited about this version, which was actually released at the end of January and has been tested to be compatible with OnBaseFoundation 22, 23, and 24, testing on 25 coming soon. So we've got three main new features with this version of the integration. The first is the ability to purge Salesforce historical data. What does that mean? Well, we've essentially added support for automatic file deletion from Salesforce after we've migrated it into OnBase. The second is our new attachment migration scheduler. So we've had the ability since our previous release to migrate content from Salesforce into OnBase for more efficient storage. Well, we now have the capability to schedule those file and attachment migrations. And then lastly, we've made some updates to infrastructure. We've made some fixes with regard to security and updated several outstanding bug fixes. So let's take a look in a little bit more detail. This is the big one. Here we see the OnBase migration dashboard and the ability to schedule that migration with a variety of options to schedule. And there's even more here, which is not shown, which will allow you to monitor the existing schedules. And for this feature, we actually leverage Salesforce's Apex scheduler to manage running the tasks, which means there's no additional service to manage these migration tasks. So we see the ability to schedule, we see some already scheduled migrations, all right here from this OnBase migration dashboard. This new scheduler is huge. So if you have Salesforce and OnBase and are interested in this integration, at the bare minimum, you need OnBase Foundation EP3 or higher. This integration is licensed a little bit differently than some of our other integrations, as it's actually a per user per year license and is available for both on-prem or Highland Cloud hosted solutions. It's easy to set up and configure. A little bit of work on the Salesforce side to add the OnBase components and you're good to go. However, you will need the OnBase API server and the Highland Identity Service. Right alongside Salesforce, I'd like to introduce our new integration for nCino. It's a pre-built integration between OnBase and the nCino core banking system. This integration is powered by Datum Sync, which is a codeless, bi-directional cloud integration platform by Initium Softworks, one of our partners. If you're not familiar with nCino, it is a cloud-based banking platform that helps financial institutions manage their business. And nCino is built on the Salesforce platform. This integration, like many of our others, combines native nCino and OnBase technologies with the Datum Sync as that integration layer. So in the most simplest sense, this is like any other OnBase purpose-built integration. We've got the ability to keep users in the familiar nCino application while accessing and working with content from OnBase. So here's what the integration provides. The first, effortless OnBase document access directly from nCino. The second is automated archiving, so rules-based archiving of nCino content into OnBase. And this is great for compliance with regulatory requirements, as well as simplifying records management. We've got that, final source of truth for any content. And this is all built with a simplified, low-code framework to connect these two applications. And let's look at some screens. Now, remember I said that nCino is built on Salesforce. Here we are in nCino, but it's really in Salesforce, right? And we can easily find OnBase documents from nCino. So we have this enhanced search capability, which is really just OnBase behind the scenes. If we want to view one of these related documents, we simply click on the link and our OnBase web client DocPop viewer is used to view the content. So they're stored in OnBase, being viewed from nCino with the link that pops out from nCino. And this is just our web viewer. And then, of course, how do we connect these two worlds? Well, similarly to the way we integrate OnBase and Salesforce, we've got effortless configuration and mapping to connect nCino data or keywords and OnBase with the ability to build some dynamic flows here behind the scenes. So really exciting stuff. I'm thrilled to introduce this new integration. If you have nCino and you're interested, here are the requirements. OnBase 15 or greater. And yes, I said that right, OnBase 15. The Unity Integration Toolkit, the OnBase Web Server, App Server, OnBase Full Text Search License, and Concurrent User License will be utilized. If you're interested in more information, we have several solution overviews that will give you more information. And of course, you can contact your account executive as well. Next, I'd like to talk about what's new with the OnBase integration for Esri. Essentially, this integration gives Esri GIS users access to the Highland OnBase content related to map features for physical assets, infrastructure, facilities, permitting, planning, and more. So directly from the Esri map applications users use every day, they're able to access the related OnBase content. Now, we've had this integration for many years. What's new is that Esri has recently retired their old web app builder technology, and they're now moving to a new experience builder platform. The good news is that Hyland will continue to support the Esri web app builder with OnBaseFoundation251. At the same time, we'll be re-architecting the integration and will deliver a new widget compatible with Experience Builder. And we're targeting release at the end of Q2 2025 for that. Our aim is backwards compatibility with OnBase Foundation 22.1 or greater. And while there is a requirement of the Hyland Identity Service, API Server, and Configuration Service, there is no new license required. And the best part, this new Hyland content widget means new and improved functionality. So let's talk about what's new. The new design focuses heavily on the document retrieval experience, with improvements in the UX to associate document results to specific map layers. First up, the content results will now use custom queries, which means that users can modify the column display and control the GIS layer associations. When it comes to feature actions or our configurable web links, we now support customizable actions on any map feature selection. And then lastly, we have a whole new way to configure this experience with our GIS config portal, which is a new web-based configuration tool, reducing reliance on multiple configuration files, easing deployment complexity. Let's take a look. So here we are in our Esri map application, and we've got our search results highlighted, and we have a feature of the map selected. And we're presented with all of the documents that relate to that particular selection on the map. And here we see a document from OnBase, first in our list, that is related to this area on the map. So it's a very simple custom query-based result set and document display. When we move on to our feature action, here's where absolutely anything is possible. This is a completely customizable URL where you can take any OnBase or sometimes non-OnBase activity on this particular content. So here we have 3 features selected. Maybe we want to pop an import dialog or throw up a work view filter. Anything is possible with these new customizable feature action capabilities. And last, but certainly not least, is our new web-based GIS configuration portal, where I can make the connection between Esri, Experience Builder, and OnBase. And again, this is all still in development and subject to slight changes, but you should see it by the end of Q2. So just to recap, we will be delivering a new Hyland content widget for Esri Experience Builder. We've improved the retrieval experience, including control over the hit list columns and the GIS layer associations. We've updated our product architecture, which lays the groundwork for cross-platform integration and more features faster in the future. We've got our all new web-based configuration app, and we've got a migration path for customers using our existing web app builder integration, which has been retired. So that's enough about Esri. Now let's talk a little bit more about some additional Hyland government solution news. The first is that we are committed to working towards NIST 853 moderate specific to OnBase when hosted in the managed government cloud. This will provide enhanced security, risk management, and improved compliance with federal regulations. In addition, Hyland IDP, or Intelligent Document Processing, can now be deployed in the Hyland Government Managed Cloud, and we are actually onboarding our first customer this year. And then lastly, I'd be remiss if I did not mention that we are continuing our investment in meeting WCAG 2.1 AA accessibility compliance guidelines, and we are adding more improvements to our government-specific solutions as well as OnBase in general. As we turn our attention to healthcare, we have some enhancements to our integration for Epic. These include updates to Clinician Complete and Return, as well as Hyperdrive and security. Let's take a quick look. First off, updates to clinician complete and return lifecycle, including making this process digital and adding automation to the process. First, updates to the workflow now support auto-assignment of acknowledgement requests, reducing manual interactions with documents that have well-defined rules for physician acknowledgement routing. Secondly, users can mark requests to bypass final review for acknowledgement that just need to be signed and require no further action. And last, 2 new workflow rules have been added that could be used in any workflow. The first is to check that physician acknowledgement exists, and the second is the ability to check physician acknowledgement status. All of these enhancements are designed to reduce manual interactions and speed up the process. And thanks to feedback from early adopters on the integration for Epic Hyperdrive, we're targeting improvements to performance, interoperability, and security. We've improved the real-time indexing and filtering options for integrated scanning. We allow multiple Epic systems to communicate to one OnBase system, and we've added additional URL encryption options and more to our Epic integration for OnBase in Foundation 251. All feedback for Hyperdrive and security is based on feedback from you, our early adopters. So thank you and keep it coming. All of these enhancements are included in the integration for Epic license, and you can learn more by checking out the OnBase Foundation 251 release training on Hyland Community. Next up is Hyland for Workday. Hopefully you're familiar with this integration, but if not, Hyland for Workday embeds Hyland content services directly inside of Workday, providing holistic access to enterprise content without leaving Workday. In just a few mouse clicks, users can view and capture Hyland content directly from Workday screens. From the Workday HCM record, we provide these features. First, users can view a list of existing content related to the record, including a very handy thumbnail preview. Second, they can capture new documents right from the record as well, including configurable options for bringing in relevant keyword data. And third, you can go beyond the document preview to open it in OnBase via a document link and interact with the document in the OnBase document viewer. It's an integration that is performant, scalable, and cloud to cloud with a seamless login experience. And if you're thinking to yourself, this sounds familiar, well, you're not wrong. We released a similar app previously called Hyland for Workday Extend. What's notable about this new app is that it's part of the Built on Workday Partner Program. Hyland is one of only 8 initial partners selected to participate in this program, and it speaks to our long-standing strategic partnership with Workday. Our Hyland for Workday HCM app is already listed on the Workday Marketplace. And bonus, this new app no longer requires Workday Extend. You can see the technical requirements here on the screen. One other thing I'll note is that for this Hyland for Workday app, while it only currently supports Workday HCM, we do have plans to add support for financials and student in the future. And lastly, within our bonus Colleen's Corner section, I'd like to highlight 2 exciting tools. The first is a preview of the new Hyland Content Intelligence Connector for OnBase. And the second are some updates to the existing Hyland Content Portal that I think our administrators are really going to love. First, I'd like to give a preview of the new Content Intelligence Connector for OnBase, specifically within our Knowledge Discovery service. This is a big opportunity for you, our OnBase customers, to start to take advantage of and augment your existing OnBase implementation with services powered by the Content Innovation Cloud. Essentially, what we're doing here is exposing OnBase documents or making them accessible to the AI capabilities provided by Knowledge Discovery so that users can ask plain language questions of their OnBase content. What we're allowing is the ability to open up from an existing OnBase client our Knowledge Discovery UI, which if you haven't seen it, I'll show it in just a second. And then within a Google-esque search box, users can ask natural language or plain language questions against a set of predetermined OnBase documents, essentially document types that have been designated for knowledge discovery search. And the users will receive back insightful answers with references within those OnBase documents that indicate how the agents found the answer. So let's take a look. This is the knowledge discovery UI, and it can stand alone and search against a variety of different repositories. And what we're going to do is insert a button in our OnBase clients that connect the OnBase client to this UI. You'll notice here at the top the different document types that this agent has access to when answering questions. The user then, if you look down at the bottom, asks a question in natural human language, just like I might ask you, and are provided an answer. And that answer is contained within the following OnBase documents. So they can then click on the document, open it up, and get the answer. But before we do that, you'll notice even on the right, we have some additional filters to narrow the scope of the agent. And if you notice all the agents on the left, these are all specialized assistants that have access to, let's say, a variety of different OnBase document types. When we want to take a look at this document, we open it up, and here we see the document with the reference to where the answer was found highlighted for us. And now we can do something with this information. So how are we connecting this knowledge discovery to our existing OnBase clients? Now, like I said, this is a preview, so the screens might not look exactly like this, but we'll start to see an Ask Discovery button within App Builder. We'll see it also within the web client. And yes, even the Unity client will be connected to knowledge discovery. Now, what are some of the benefits here by bringing these together? The first is that our knowledge discovery solution has access to OnBase content, and it can marry it or federate it eventually with content from other repositories as well. Essentially, you can search across multiple repositories. We'll find a button to ask discovery in a variety of OnBase clients with the reference documents available that returned the answers from our search. We've saw those dynamic filters for scoping the agents. And of course, I'd be remiss if I did not mention that this is all point and click configurable. So making the connection between discovery and OnBase, indicating which document types it should have access to, and so on, is all done via a point and click configurable interface. So you might be wondering, well, what am I going to need to have in place to get this up and running? Well, the first step, and that's why we're giving the preview now, is to upgrade to OnBase Foundation 251. That's going to be the first step. So you're going to want to get there within the next couple months. You'll then subscribe to our Highland Knowledge Discovery service. The connector, the OnBase connector, is a no-cost license. There will be a little bit of configuration in Discovery to connect to OnBase, and then on the OnBase side, within the OnBase admin portal, that's what you'll use to define the collections of OnBase documents, really the metadata that is sent to Discovery. And all of this will be, role-based, user group, agent access, and permissions. And then lastly, the Unity scheduler is used for communicating with Discovery, as new documents come into the OnBase system that should be accessible for this search. In our first release, we'll have support for text-based content with a lot more to come. Now, this was just a commercial. I suppose I could say if you want more information right away, you can visit the Highland Content Intelligence page on highland.com, talk to your account manager about playing around with some beta software until the MVP release in June. But I am really, really excited about this new capability that is part of our Content Innovation Cloud and how it can help evolve and advance an existing OnBase solution. The second item that I wanted to talk to is not necessarily new, but has some major enhancements that coincide with the OnBase Foundation 251 release. So I felt it important to include it here too. And that is with regard to our Highland Content Portal, which is a modern, highly accessible WCAG compliant, accessible, external facing web portal experience that integrates directly with OnBase, kind of maximizing the investment in both technology platforms. So we've been partnering with Jadu for many years, and they do a lot of things really, really well, which I'll talk about in a second. But they are a web content management system that is born and bred in accessibility. And we've partnered with them to deliver internal or external, which I think is really the big one, self-service access to personalized content and online forms from any device. And that content can be OnBase content or any other application to which they integrate, all from one place. So what do they do extremely well? Well, the first is external access. OnBase, we've had a couple flavors of externally facing portals in the past. This one is by far the best in terms of the way the content is made accessible, the accessibility, the responsiveness, and the way in which they provision those external accounts. They are also, as I mentioned, born and bred in accessibility, meeting or exceeding WCAG 2.2 AA compliant standards, which is huge, certainly within the government, public sector space, but certainly for private industry as well. And they are fully 100% web and mobile responsive, not just the web content, but also the forms themselves. So it's optimal to any internet-enabled device. And while this is a simplistic demo example, this is a picture of what it looks like. Internal, external user, authenticated, maybe not, accessing a web content. This can be integrated into your existing website, or it can be your full web presence, which is really exciting. Some key differentiators. The management of that external account setup. It's one thing to create a username and password for your couple hundred OnBase users, but certainly not tens of thousands of constituents. They also have a capability that we've been dreaming of in our Unity forms for years, which is the ability to save and return to online forms. Now, these are Jadu forms, but then the data from that form can be sent into OnBase in a variety of ways, populating anything from a PDF to a workview object. There's also the capability when uploading or importing a new document to scan that file for viruses before upload. Something we've wanted for a long time. And then lastly, they've got many out-of-the-box connectors, a payment bridge for accepting payments, signatures, Office 365 scheduling, calendars, and so much more. There's a lot you can do, all from the phone in the palm of your hand. So now let's talk about what's new. So in Jadu, there'll be configuration of the externally facing, even though it can be internal too, let's just say externally facing web content management platform. There were opportunities for some basic design options, could only really kind of configure the logo and the colors. And the features were limited to just portal pages and forms. And part of that was by design because we want these templates, these forms, these pages to be accessible and responsive. So they were maybe lacking a little previously in some of the design elements. Now, with this new version that is using Jadu Central Lite, there are many more options to upgrade the look and feel and design of the website without requiring this deep technical expertise. So if we go behind the scenes to some of the configuration in Jadu, you see now that there's many more capabilities with CSS and HTML to make these pages more aesthetically pleasing without sacrificing any of the accessibility or the responsiveness. So you can make it look and feel a little bit snazzier and fancier without really requiring much custom coding. Most of this is all low code, point and click configurable. So look at these gorgeous pages that are integrating in the backend with OnBase to provide OnBase content to these users in a fully responsive design. So here's just a closer look at some of the configurations within Jadu Central behind the scenes. We have some new advanced low-code UI for design changes. So you see some of the CSS and the HTML capabilities here that really make anything possible. And then here's the beautiful new front-end display that is possible thanks to these administrative changes that now up the game in terms of design, still accessible, still responsive, now just that much prettier. If you are interested in this external portal that's responsive and accessible, check out the Highland Content Portal page on highland.com. So that's all I've got in my corner this time around. Hope you found this overview of OnBase Foundation 251 helpful. Why upgrade? User experience, administrative tools, and enhanced integrations. And here's just a refresher as to what we talked about. Remember that the new responsive capabilities in WorkView and in App Builder, some updates to the web client, responsive Unity forms. We've added more to the admin portal and refreshed the look of Studio. We've added enhancements to all of the third-party purpose-built integrations that you see here, including introducing our new integration for Insano. And we just got done talking about the bonus section, which I affectionately call Colleen's Corner, in terms of the Content Intelligence Connector for OnBase and the Highland Content Portal. So much that we've talked about. Hopefully there were a few nuggets in here for you. Many reasons to upgrade. This is our biggest release of OnBase App Builder to date. So if you haven't started playing with it now, is the time. And we've got that responsiveness to our WorkView panels and our Unity forms, which is huge. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, we are continuing to work on application security and accessibility. The last thing I'll leave you with is this, which is a reminder of the Highland documentation portal. Gone are the days of the 1,000-page module reference guide, but on support.highland.com, you'll see a web portal or page that has all of Highland's documentation. You can filter on product, on module, on release. You can search the content and find exactly what you're looking for. You do not need to be authenticated to access this content, but certainly if you are, you've got more features available, such as creating your own documentation library, marking things as favorites, and sharing content within the portal with friends. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. I hope you've enjoyed learning about OnBase Foundation 251. I've certainly had fun sharing what's new with you. Thanks again, and this is Colleen Alber, Product Evangelist.